All right, y'all. Hello, hello, hello. Come on in. Come in. I know XRP holders are excited. So go ahead, XRP holders, and do what you do. Do what you do. And, hashtag XRP Army, right? All the YouTubers have covered this today. So I just decided to come in with a twist because I know many of the questions or question will be, why don't we see XRP on this news by Brad Garland House stating that the SEC will drop the XRP case? So you all come on in. Hello, hello, hello. Hit that like, hit that share button. Let's talk about this today. My other coverage before I found out about this morning was going to be on HDC today and real world assets in collaboration with HBAR, but I won't go there. I will not go there. However, I will show you all this graph as you all are coming in. Let me know what part of the world you are tuning in from. Drop your city, your state, your country, right? We have XRP currently at, let's see the price, $2.51, right? $2.51. Peace and prosperity to you. Um, is that envoy 444 positivity to I need that positivity. Send that positivity. Send that my way. Los Angeles is in quintessential. Quintessential, you send me a lot of messages on IG, Instagram, but I'm not on there as much, so I do see it. But it may take me a week or two, but I see your messages, right? Hello, checking in from the GA, also known as Georgia. Uh, Someone says 2 mil XRP, 50 million XPR. I'm not sure what you mean by that. It's not 50 million XPR. And it's definitely not 2 million XRP. XRP, let's see, is 1 billion released every month, right? Released every month. So no, it is definitely, it's not 50. In fact, the circulating supply for XPR proton, the is way lower. The circulating supply is almost at 100 percentile. So the monthly XRP release from Escrow is, I think is Ripple Escrow's 56 billion XRP with 1 billion XRP released per month. So, I don't know where you're getting this 2 million from. However, not all of the XRP is circulated immediately. So Ripple, which holds XRP and Escrow, two different, I guess Ripple, and I've said this over and over again, Ripple is the company, XRP is the crypto, but not all of the XRP is circulated immediately. Ripple usually relocks a portion into new escrow contracts and selling on or distributing rather only what is necessary for liquidity and this partnerships that's formed. So the circulation does vary with that over time and its impact um, over time. And so, but that 2 billion is definitely not accurate. So let's get into this. Let's get right into the news, right? XRP $1,000. Somebody is definitely delusional. We have Miami, Florida checking in, right? We have Miami, Florida checking in. XRC. This is the type of stuff. And then people say I'm being negative. I'm not being negative. This is very delusional thinking, right? Every month, there's 1 billion with a B XRP that is unlocked in Ripple's escrow account. Ripple does not flood the market with all of it all at once. Instead, they sell some and return the rest to escrow for future months. So let's break down the impact of supply for Lopez? If Ripple sells a lot of XRP, more enters into circulation, and that is increasing the supply. If the demand, right, or buyers is low and the supply is high, the price could go down. Now, if Ripple sells less and the demand is strong, the price could go up. Or guess what? While we say stable coin, it could remain stable. So the price of XRP depends on how much is sold, the market demand, and overall investor confidence, retail investors and your confidence of the people in XRP. Now, maybe I can roll with XRP at $20, maybe, right? Maybe I can roll with that at $20. I'm saying $10 to $13 this year, however. So if Ripple sells too much all at once, it could cause temporary price drop. If the demand increases due to partnerships, adaptation, we have to wait on utility. Although this is great news that Brad Garland House has released. I even did the Gematria on today because I was wondering why the 19th. I didn't see anything that really stood out in the Gematria. However, the long-term effect, the escrow system, it ensures that the predictability, reducing the sudden price shock, if that makes sense. Over time, XRP adoption grows, the demand could outpace the supply and potentially driving the price higher. However, if Ripple continues selling large amounts, it may slow down the price. Now, right, somebody says, forget the escrow. Why? You didn't even let me get into the topic. Forget the escrow. The real question is, what happens to the Vostros accounts when bridge currency? First of all, XRP won't be a bridge currency. That would be XLM, right? However, it will be a bridge liquidity pool technology. That's the transaction of it, meaning that it will allow the liquidation of other currency to liquidate amongst each other, or to exchange amongst each other in liquidation. That totally is going to eliminate the need for Vostros accounts. In other words, aka the middleman. Now, some experts are predicting XRP for this year, 2025, between $5 and $7, because of Ripple's progress. In fact, Warren Buffett is buying more into Ripple company, but not XRP. XRP, I agree with you, will be between $12 and $14 because of the market cap. It's a lot of liquidity, but however you have to keep in mind that this liquidity will come in and come out real fast, right? It's not going to hold. That's why it's called Ripple. It's going to be a ripple effect, just like ripple puddles of water. They disappear quickly. Now, if we want to be just really optimistic, it could see $20 or higher with the potential. This is the approval, $20 or higher. I see Lopez says XRP, $20. And I'm so glad you got the notification, Patel. Thank you for that. Now, how can we sell $20 XRP this year? Is the XRP-based exchange, or I say it this way, ETFs, increase institutional adoption. We know BlackRock, we know a lot of ETFs, Binary, Bit Capital, 21st Century were filed, and to my knowledge, BlackRock was filing for an ETF as well. So now you have institutional adoption that has to take place. XRP into the mainstream financial system or services, not Ripple. And that's what we're waiting on. So the approval of an XRP ETF definitely puts it in that category and attract institutional investors and drive the demand. Also, technology enhancements in the XRP ledger and Ripple's payment solutions can increase the utility and appeal to a bigger, a broader, base, right? So the market trends, general cryptocurrency market dynamics. We have not technically entered into alt season as of yet. We're not even into altcoin season, and so the partnerships with the financial institutions to improve the cross border payment solution is going to improve the cross border payment solution. It's not going to be the cross-border payment solution. Is going to improve upon it. Now, someone says $20 by 2026. I'm good. I'm definitely good if it hits $20 by 2026. I mean, getting in for me under 50 cents and the potential approval of an ETF. And you all, it was not announced that XRP, Solana, or XLM would be in the strategic reserve. That was only Bitcoin, right? That was only Bitcoin. And I don't know where, give me a second, where that information came from, but it's not true, it's not accurate. That XRP, ADA, or Solana are going to be in the reserve. As of right now, it's just Bitcoin. That's the announcement. Now, so ETFs, if it goes into underscore in the financial system, we know we have until November of this year for full adaptation of ISO 20022 messaging. Now, XRP is not ISO 22 compliant. Someone says people are lying. Somebody else says XPR. I love it. Tell them again. Patel says, smash that like button for the queen. Please do that on YouTube on Spiritual and Crypto Matters. Thank you so much. Now the question is, you all let me know whether you are watching this live on the replay. Do you think that XRP will hit $3 before Ethereum hits 3,000? Now, let me give you some news because we have not heard all about this. The case is still going before the court. Right now, we just have Brad Garland House saying that the case is dropped. But the case is still before the court. XRP decision now is they want to fight the $125 million fine. We cannot forget about that. And Ripple is still deciding if this is fair to their investors to pay this fine. I think Ripple has until mid-April, and I've been telling you all about that, April 7th, to make a decision with their response to the news. So this can definitely, you all, be a buy the rumor, sell the news, hodl the news, right? And so with that, also S&P 500 Bitcoin bringing, it will always be the case unless you are, decouple, 100% decouple. If XRP was 100% decoupled from Bitcoin, which is not, it will mean the price movement, adoption, and market settlements will no longer be influenced by Bitcoin. So you still have that in consideration as well. SRP price would then stabilize. It would be independent. XRP, like most altcoin, is heavily, and let me say this again for the people in the back row, the people in the nosebleed seats, heavily correlated with Bitcoin. So when Bitcoin drops, so does XRP follows. If there's no XRP specific reason, it has to be fully decoupled. XRP price will be driven by its own fundamentals, such as Ripple's development, adoption by financial institution, and again, regulatory clarity. So if banks and institutions widely adopt XRP for cross-border transaction. That has to happen as well. It could gain value even in the bear market for Bitcoin, even if Bitcoin is in the bear market, which I do not see Bitcoin being in the bear market because of the halving that took place in 2024. And usually the time frame is in the fall of this year that we begin to see Bitcoin just really take off, especially going into December. Again, we have not entered out season. So how can XRP become a true stable utility asset? That's the question. And guess what? I have the answer. So decoupling could mean XRP will be less volatile compared to Bitcoin, making it more attractive, again, for financial institutions. With proper adoption, XRP could behave more like a stable, liquid asset rather than a speculative crypto. And let's hope that stablecoin is a very high stable price. If it gains regulatory clarity, example, as a bridge asset for banks, it can function as a real settlement tool rather than just a tradable token, because you are right now, XRP is really great for trading. The gains are really great for trading if you are into trading or you are a trader. So governments and banks may push for stricter compliance rules, making XRP less decentralized than Bitcoin. But again, XRP has to become less decentralized than Bitcoin. That will happen is Ripple's partnerships with SWIFT, the BIS, IMF, and central banks strengthen. XRP could evolve. It is not there yet into an ISO 20022 compliant financial instrument. It could evolve. So a fully decoupled XRP will be more controlled by institutional players. Please understand this, rather than retail traders. Right now, retail traders influence XRP price swings heavily. So if XRP is no longer tied to Bitcoin, it would thrive in bear markets. It would be traded based on utility, liquidity, and enterprise adoption rather than just hype cycles. However, if XRP is untied or decouples from Bitcoin, crypto traders may lose interest. It will reduce its volume and liquidity and broader crypto market. If Bitcoins remain dominant and XRP goes on its own way, some investors may see it as less decentralized and move away from it. So XRP will need more independent demand from institutional investors and payments networks to maintain its high liquidity. So 100% decoupling will mean that XRP is valued purely on its adoption and institutional use cases. They could just start raining real bad. So if Ripple vision, if the players, or vision plays out and XRP becomes a key financial infrastructure piece, meaning that it's bridging banks, SWIFT, and CBDCs. Okay, let me say that again. Bridging banks, SWIFT, and CBDCs, it could be massively bullish. It could be very, very bullish, but it'll also play XRP under institutional control. Please believe that. Making it a different type of asset compared to decentralized Bitcoin. So now, but Bitcoin will become centralized control just like everything else. And I already believe that Bitcoin is still decentralized, but is very highly institutionalized. Now, some people want to blame it on Bitcoin whales, say they don't want XRP to reach $3 or its all-time high. And you'll notice that when Bitcoin pumped after the news, then they let it rise a little, and then they dump BTC, sending XRP down. So they're blaming the Bitcoin whales. XRP Army does that, is doing that, and they're calling it manipulation. So we are technically in phase 6 of XRP, rise to dominance. The RL USD stablecoin was released as that stage, or phase one. Trump's inauguration made phase two. Gary Gensler, when he officially resigned or left the SEC, that was phase three. Again, XRP is not in the strategic reserve, right? Most people thought it was. It's not. So either, either. Now, altcoin season comes, be phase four, and then Ripple, not XRP, has to name a big bank partnership, right? What is that? I don't know, 5, 6, 4, 5, and XRP ETF approval is pending. And to be the sixth phase is to be decoupled, decoupling from Bitcoin, untied to Bitcoin. Again, that has its pros and cons, right? And now, U.S. Reserve has to be tied in as well. But again, you all, I'm not being the bearer of bad news, but the lawsuit isn't really over. Judge Torres' decision needs to be reversed by the judge. That still has to happen. Ripple is still going to put their answer to the appeal. I think I said April 7th, you all. That's going to happen April 16th. Then wait for the judge's decision. And hopefully it won't be long. Since the security drop, there's appeal. Now, I don't know why Brad Garlinghouse chose March 19th. And we see the 9, and that which is finished or that which is hidden will be revealed. I always go or reference back to a woman that carries a fetus for 9 months, and at that 9th month is full maturation. It's an infant, right? It's hidden in the womb. That which is hidden will be revealed. Also, Mr. S says, if we don't enter into off season several weeks from now, you'll just start to have your doubts. Well, I'm not having doubts. You got to have diamond hands, right? You got the hodl. I tell people, I believe that you should look at this as a long-term investment unless you're a trader, right? Not a quick flip and dip. Now, you might be saying, Queen, I've been holding for years. Then I will rebuttal and say, how long have you been in your 401k or your pension? How long do you work for that? Well, 25, 30 years. And even upon retirement, that's usually not enough for you to live off of. You have to either get a second job, because that's the 40-40 plan. You work for 40 years and usually for 40 plus hours, only to receive 40% of your income that you were receiving upon retirement. XRP market cap high as hell, flip Ethereum already. That's why I sold over 100,000 XRP and traded it for ICP after hollering for over 4 years and sticking out the whole SEC BS. It's tokenomics, peeps. Crypto Bullish says, wow, you sold over 100K. You said XRP market cap high as hell. Let me look at that. I haven't looked at the market cap. I'm glad you brought that case up, because everyone is big on the market cap, right? So let's go to coinmarketcap.com. I'm big on the USD price, not the market cap, because, the market cap is a part of it, but as I make this example, I'll make the example when I put his screen up. And XRP has not flipped Ethereum's market cap. Crypto Bullish. Are you saying it flipped it in the past? Because as of right now, it has not flipped Ethereum's market cap. We see Bitcoin. These numbers, so, look at the circulating supply, 19.83 million. This is Bitcoin market cap. That's Ethereum. Circulating supply, 120 million. XRP circulating supply, 58.1 billion, and then the max supply is 100 billion. So we see 58% of its circulating supply, whereas Bitcoin is 94.47%. And then we see Ethereum's circulating supply is just saying 120. It's not giving me the percentage on that. Look at Bitcoin, BNB market cap, right? And then, which is lower than XRP. So this is why, to me, market cap does not matter. And the circulating supply is in the millions, not billions. But the price is higher. So, like, what's the big deal about market cap? Same thing with Solana. Because of the circulating supply is small, in the millions. So, again, whereas we have PR Proton, market cap is 105 million. Definitely, want some more flowing into that. Click on this. The circulating supply is all-time high, was 5 years ago. Okay, circulating supply is 27 billion, but I want to say how much of that is already in. It's not telling us. So we got 27 billion. That's definitely lower than 100 billion of XRP. And the total supply stands around 30.18 billion tokens. However, with XPR, there is no fixed cap on the total number of XPR proton that can exist. So the circulating supply with XPR represents the number of tokens currently available and actively traded on the market. The total supply includes both circulating supply and those that are locked, reserved, or active or in active circulation. But 30 billion XPR proton, but it's still stating there's no fixed supply. But out of that is 27 billion. Now let's look at let me look at some comments real quick. You all hit that like button and share this video. Someone says, thanks for selling your XRP. I'm about to buy it. Not really. They won't. People say that all the time. I'm about to buy it. Why would you buy it in the green? Market cap means nothing with a global reserve currency. It's not a global reserve currency. XLM is. It's a global transactional technology. It's not the currency. It's going to liquidate currencies or allow currencies to liquidate or exchange one for another. For example, this is the Zimbabwe dollar, and I don't have a US dollar, but Zimbabwe dollars no longer are in existence, right? The dollar, Venezuela dollars, they crash. Let's just say this is a US dollar on one hand, right? And Venezuela dollar on the other. Okay. Nostros Vosos accounts. I'm the middle person, the middleman, rather. And what happened is, if this currency wanted to exchange its goods and serve for this currency, they had to have a Nostros Vosos account that was already pre-funded with that currency amount of tokens. Now XRP comes in. They want to do business globally. Hey, this is the US dollar. I wish I had a US dollar with me, but my purse is somewhere. This is Venezuela dollar. And now XRP just allows the exchange with taking out the middleman. That's as simple as I can explain it. We got to get into crypto bullishness. We got to get into DeFi and become our own banks. And banks yield daily APR like banks do with our money. I definitely agree about DeFi. Someone says XRP won't go over $10 ever. 87 boss. Could you elaborate on that? Will you elaborate on that? Why do you feel XRP will never, ever, ever, ever go over $10? Market cap matters, Queenie. I'm saying market cap does not matter when it comes to the US dollar price, sweetie. Because if that's the case, XRP is already ranked third in market cap. It would be already have exceeded its all-time high. But because of the 100 billion tokens, no ETF, no global institutions adoption yet, no use cases as of yet, no utility. There's no liquidity pool needed right now because the whole global banking system has not flipped the switch. All right. It seems a bit suspicious that Stellar XLM has a lot going on with Ukraine. You agree? Uh, Crypto bullish, I stick with my 5 million H bar and daily DeFi yield. That's a great play. H bar definitely is leading in blockchain technology. I'll stick with my 50K H bar, right? So just reading the comments, but I just want to elaborate on it. We still have to have the appeal April 16th, and anyone can stop the profits as soon as it goes up. The influence is, a good trading token as right now with XRP, buy the rumor, sell the news again. And so a lot of people wanting to jump on so they can make money. People don't hold XRP as a collective. It loses value and it becomes volatile. And it's not being used yet for what it's made for. The financial chaos, out here need to settle, adopt, and put in use when the digital world is opening. That time in XRP is not being used yet. We have the switch is not flipped, but I don't think that the case is dry. I don't know why Brad Garland House again March 19th. The only thing I can do with the numbers is let me try to research something. It's just say the 19 is the flipping of 16, which is April 16th, which is the date that they have to appeal. That's the only thing that I see. But again, institutions, banks, government, countries, billionaires are getting in first before the general masses. And, that's what it is. Some people taking their gains. Some people are still using it as a trading coin because the utility has not kicked in. The appeal, the case have not officially ended, so I have no clue why Brad Garland House made that announcement. But let's just break down the gematria of the numbers, right? Number 19 is divine order, completion, but 19 also means judgment. It also means judgment. So let me pull that up. God's perfect order with 19. A civil war in the Bible, for example, existed after David was made king over Judah. And I could really go into live streaming about World War III, but I won't. So 19, let's put this up. Completion, fulfillment, symbolizes wholeness or perfection. Is one less than the number 20. I'm just reading right now from the notes that I put up on Google about 19. And also, Bitcoin is at 86,000, but XRP is up 10% today. A lot of people are taking their gains. With that, we got Hype Coin that's $15 right now. And then, let's see, Sui is up 5%. But also, this is a Simpsons crypto. I'm going to share my screen with you all. Hello, Queen. Hello, Patrice. D Harv said people would say anything for attention. What are people saying? You talking about Brad Garland House. I don't know why Brad Garland House. The only thing I can point to is just try to look at the decoding of the Gematria, because I don't know why he would make that statement when the SEC has not officially said that the case is dropped. I don't know why, he's choosing to pump that, because there's not an official statement from the SEC as of now. And again, we still have those April dates, because it threw me. It really threw me for a loop, because I know, according to The Simpsons, season 31, episode 13, the sales lady name was April. So definitely was expecting some big things to happen in April. And guess what else is up 14% today? Speaking of Simpsons episode season 13, as XRP takes the attention, is Tailcoin. Tailcoin, this is on the Simpsons as well. A market cap of 569. Look at the 9999 million and 8.19 million in 24 hours right now flowing into Tail. And so, I haven't seen anything with Brad Garland House, saying that, whether he made that announcement in good hopes or good spirit, or speaking it in the for future. But I have not seen anything specifically stated that, but only Brad Garland House making this announcement. Again, XRP is not in full utility. It's not in full use case. I've gone on record of stating that I believe it really is going to be Ripple private IPO stock that we'll see 3 figures, maybe $100 with that Ripple private IPO stock, because once you do your research and due diligence, you will see that Ripple is the company behind all of this, and Ripple is the one that's making all of the not contractual agreement, but making all of the business deal that's signing under Ripple itself. In fact, let me pull up this article. The 19 is hidden messages, divine revelations embedded within the number. Throughout scripture, the number 19 offers valuable insights into God's plan for humanity. From the pages of Genesis to Revelation, this number is a symbol of God's and for example, fed and 2 fish, not fishes, but 2 fish. There were 12 baskets left over, and 12 is a sum of 12 and 7. 7 is divine transition, which means spiritual fulfillment, divine provision. Number 19 uncovers the mysteries. But I, I don't know, other than that, for their wickedness, rescue lives, family, drugs, we suffer And so, judgment and deliverance in Genesis 19, the dual nature of 19, divine justice, intervention, and God's mercy or protection. So, I believe that is showing us that divine judgment is coming, intervention. And, I want you all to be aware that these tariffs, although the income tax must go away, the income tax has to go away because we are transitioning from our old financial system. But until we see utility use cases happen, and that's not just with XRP, that's with XLM, that's with XDC, that's with XYO, right? Uh, and that happens in November. But big corporations won't adopt until these regulations are clear, you all. And these regulations are not clear. That's all I have to say. These regulations are not clear, but I'm assuming that Brad Garland House is telling us what's predicted. A lot of people are going. It's going to be very interesting what the price will be tomorrow because a lot of people are just going to take their gains out today. And Crypto Bully said, "I never liked the 50 billion XRP in Treasury. Why? Oh, you mean in escrow?" Ripple and BG are very suspect. Okay, you're gonna have to help me out, Crypto Bullish. What's BG? What's BG? So again, I've gone on record of saying that April is going to be the month because of the Simpsons episode, and give me a second. Let me turn this text message. Um, And XDC, in my opinion, is going to make big waves with its real world asset and collaboration with Flare and HBAR. Right. Now, Crypto Bullish says, oh, Brad Garland House, Ripple and Brad Garland House are very suspect. I think the whole thing is set up by elites, elite long play. And you said, I never liked the 50 billion XRP in Treasury. Why? Well, Ripple's escrow again is 38.9 billion XRP, and that's down from the 55 billion XRP that was locked in 2017. I don't think people realize that. So Ripple's escrow releases 1 billion monthly to manage supply. And I've already gone over this earlier that any unused XRP is returned to escrow and a balance between supply and demand. So it's really like 1 billion a month. And there's approximately 39 billion XRP remaining in escrow, not 50 billion Crypto Bullish. So it's really like 39 billion. But I get, it's like, 38.9 billion, but the same thing. That's in escrow. Hello, Patrice. Thank you for tuning in. Patrice Prosperity. Let me pull up one article that maybe I didn't, let's see why Brad Garland House. Because I'm just, this announcement prematurely is mind boggling to me, but he sure did announce it. So, SEC drop case against crypto firm with ties to Trump, the CEO said. This is just released an hour ago, so let's look at this. Okay, now CoinDesk says SRP 2 drop appeal. Then I said he has done it. However, the most recent article says that the case against Ripple Labs has ended. And let me share that with you all. Look at the Gematria Oliver Miller, who just passed away. But let me ask you this, Brian. Why Oliver Miller? Why not Angie Stone? But I'll look at it.
And for more context on all of this, we're joined now by cryptocurrency analyst Wendy O. She covers crypto and NFTs for her nearly 1 million followers.
Okay, let me fix my background setting so you all can hear this. Let's listen to this interview. Whitney O. I love her. I watch her. Let's listen to her elaborate on this.
By cryptocurrency analyst Wendy O. And for more context on all of this, we're joined now by cryptocurrency analyst Wendy O. She covers crypto and NFTs for her nearly 1 million followers. Thanks for joining us. But before we begin, we should flag that you yourself own cryptocurrency, just for full disclosure. I know, Wendy O, in your analysis and report, information for
used to add these assets to these reserves or stockpiles, meaning that assets that the government aren't the bill. And that's a great news for retail, because we're not footing the bill like we have done in the past.
And so what do you think the Trump administration hopes to accomplish in setting out the strategic reserve?
I think that they want to accomplish a solid asset such as Bitcoin that they can hold on to, that will accumulate wealth, accumulate value, and hopefully make America a better place for our children and for the future. The previous administration was selling Bitcoin that was seized from various acts that were done. And instead of doing that, they should have analyzed and projected to see if it would have been worth holding or getting rid of. And instead, they decided to sell it. And it was a massive mistake, in my personal opinion, because Bitcoin is a great store of value.
Is there any way, do you think, sorry to interrupt, is there any way that it might backfire at all, this strategy?
I personally don't think it will backfire, because we're not talking about using taxpayer dollars or using any type of government money to acquire more Bitcoin or to acquire more digital assets. We're simply taking the asset that has been confiscated for wrong behavior and then putting it in a reserve and essentially holding on to it. So there's really no negative by doing this.
And so many of the cryptocurrency executives that we saw photographed earlier at the White House invested heavily in the last election, hoping to turn the tide on government regulation on crypto. What will you be watching from this administration and Congress in terms of regulation?
I'm actually very excited. We have a pro-crypto president, a pro-crypto Congress, pro-crypto SEC, pro-crypto CFTC. They're all very much pro-innovation. So I'm just looking forward, and I'm hoping that they will continue to keep their promises. So far, all of the promises Trump has made regarding crypto and Bitcoin has been kept. But my biggest concern is focusing on retail investors and hopefully abolishing the accredited investor law so retail has an equal seat at the table.
But in terms of regulation?
Yes, in terms.
Okay, I'm going to elaborate on what she just said. That she wants to eliminate the accredited investor laws. Listen, this is why I've been telling you all that only accredited investors can get in Ripple. But retail investors in XRP. And so Brad Garlinghouse, someone said, so did they win? Well, he announced the case has ended. He said on his X.com account, today is a victory, a long overdue surrender by the SEC. But however, SEC has not come out and confirmed it. But I believe that it was going to, come to that anyway, that they was not going to win. A spokesperson from the SEC declined to comment. This has not been confirmed by SEC. This prevents Ripple from potentially facing the $125 million fine. And this comes with less than 2 weeks from Garlinghouse, for when Brad Garlinghouse was at the White House for President Trump's crypto summit. Now, Ripple donated $5 million to Trump's inaugural committee. Garlinghouse posted this photo also on X.com account, and The SEC, again, this case been going on for like what, for years, over 4 years. In December 2020 is when Trump was still in office. The SEC sued Ripple and two executives for violating the SEC laws, stating that they raised over $1.4 billion with the B through the sale of XRP crypto tokens. So this is why some people that are against XRP is saying that it's just using the retail investors to fund the company Ripple. Now, again, Judge Torres ruled that XRP, when it's publicly sold, is not a security. But she still fined the company $125 million because the tokens should have been sold to institutional investors. And that's where retail investors are happy about, that they are hodling or holding something that should have been sold to institutional investors. And says not a security, XRP, when sold to retail investors, but the partnerships with Ripple is a security, right? Again, she still fined the company because she said it should have been sold to institutional investors. And this is why XRP Army is XRP Army. And the $125 million is still pending, but that should be nothing for Ripple to just pay. Pay the $125. I don't know why she fined them so much, but 125, 5, 2, and 1 is 8. The number 8 is the upside down infinity sign. That which has ended now has a new beginning, right? Intertwining. So again, 10% dump on that. No official statement from the SEC. However, I do believe that that's going to be the outcome. Nonetheless, because the SEC didn't want to comment, I just wonder why the 19th. Why the 19th? Why today? Why did he want to make that announcement today? But hey, it doesn't matter. I always look at numbers and I look at things differently. I'm always looking at the numbers. And so will the $125 million fine, that was what the appeal was about. Ripple was appealing. This could have ended a long time ago. You all, we have 111 people in, so hit that 111, hashtag 111, tap into the 111, Deuteronomy 1 and 11. May the Lord, whether you are watching this live or on the replay, may the Lord thy God, the God of our ancestors, bless you and increase you 1,000 times more. D Harv says digital asset derivatives exchange announced the launch of the first ever XRP futures regulated by the CFTC today. Okay. The case is not over until the court says it is. That's true. That's when it's official over. Accredited investors for now, I'm saying Ripple, the IPO initial public offering or initial coin offering, stock itself is only available to accredited investors, and Ripple is the company that's making the partnerships, not XRP within itself. Rashad Khalif talked about the car Ronic code number 19. And well, honey, I won't talk about that. Okay, I don't want to talk about that. I don't know who Rashad Khalif is, to be honest with you. All right, so Oliver Miller, because I used to coach basketball, I do know who Oliver Miller is. So let's do the gematria on that, and then I'm logging off. But breaking news, I just thought it was going to be in April, but we are waiting on the official SDC to announce it and to see if they will pay that fine. Okay, let me see. If I see anything on Oliver Miller worth sharing with you all. Great Pyramid. Eye of Horus. Okay, he's a Muslim that put the Quran in the let's see, the Quran in the computer system in the mid. Yeah, quantum computer has been um, around a long, long time, just not fully activated. See Young Dolph, etymology. God chose you. 17th. The end, beginning, world's best. I don't see anything worth elaborating on from a crypto perspective about oh, that's why I spelled it wrong. I spelled it wrong. Okay, let's look again. Jacob Rothschild. Okay, that's definitely worth. XRP Storm is coming. Okay, that's interesting. JP Morgan Chase Company, that's even more interesting, being that in 2011, JP Morgan and Chase hoarded over 350 million ounces of silver. That's 38% of the world's population. 8 plus 3 is 11. Philadelphia Eagles, who just won the championship. The White Rabbit, going down the rabbit hole. 369. And of Prophecy. So you all, the big thing is if you have something on your hands that Judge Torres is saying it should have been only sold to institutional investors, then we have to go down the rabbit hole to say, why did she say that if she deemed it not a security? And that's why XRP hodlers and army is hoping to have something on their hands. Not that it's the banker's coin, but something on their hands that should have been sold, that should have been given to institutional investors. So Angie Stone, we see 13. 13 is tied to XLM, XRP, and XPR. Ripple Labs, you all, that's even bigger. Wow, tied to Angie Stone. Wow. And Oliver Miller, who both just recently passed. The Black Beast, Solomon, the richest king, the richest man recorded in the Bible. Ripple Labs, again, man of steel. When we think of steel, we think of what? Metal, metallic, blockchain. Libra rising. I am definitely a Libra. 17. I wish it had 19. Los Angeles, XRP. Y'all, this is amazing. I'm going to have to change this title to Oliver Miller and Angie Stone, Gematria. XRP price. Of course, her famous son, Sunshine. It's all in the numbers, you all. It's coming, okay? Definitely. 4 days. Number 4 is the number of foundation, number of direction, the 4 corners of the world, north, east, west, and south. Child sacrifice, XRP ledger, cyber attack, and Sacramento and Los Angeles. XRP, XPR Proton, and XLM have offices and companies in San Francisco. Very, very interesting gematria that's pointing to Ripple Labs, XRP. And we got still 111. So again, you all, whether you are watching this live or on the replay, put 111 in the comment section. I think George Torres said early sales were sold as a security. Well, according to the research I've done, George Torres said that XRP was something that should have been sold to institutional investors. Brand did an interview today on Bloomberg, said XRP had a case against the SEC now without any release from SEC or the courts. I don't think I've ever heard someone drop. I've never heard that either. That's why I was like, why now? Right. That's why I was like, why is he dropping this on the 19th? So again, in Hebrew, Gematria 19 is associated with I think Shava, meaning Eve. Eve in the King James translation is the first. The evening comes first, right? The evening comes first in the morning. The evening in the morning is the first day. This is all throughout the Bible. So again, number 19 symbolizes divine order and judgment. Now, someone mentioned the Quran. It's a code, underlying its structure. It appears in the Quran as well. And again, 19 can be reduced. 1 plus 9 equals 10. And what is 10? The completion of a thing or divine order. And Hebrew is also linked to the goodness or divine blessing. Everything is always in the numbers, you all. And some numerologists associate 19 with leadership, independence. But guess what? Even more, transformation. Transformation, number 19. So words like God and Alpha sometimes correspond to 19 and certain gematria systems as well. Now, okay, let me look up something else. So that's it for the gematria, but I did not know that about Angie Stone. Of course, I know Oliver Miller as well. And that's the gematria around it. Number 19. So April, you all big days. Also, let's see, will XPR Proton make some moves on the 22nd of this month as well? And we know that all of the banking system has to be on the ISO messaging by November of this year. So it's a method behind the madness. It's a reason why it was dropped on 19. And then we see the gematria of Angie Stone and Oliver Miller tying to Ripple Labs and XRP Ledger as well. Right. So I'm logging off you all. Right. I did not intend on being here for an hour. I thought this was going to be a 10-minute live stream. But you all, you know I have to end my live stream and tell you to buy crypto, suckers. And I also got to say, I told y'all. Y'all thought I was playing, but I told y'all. And guess what? I told y'all is also gematria. Someone brought that to my attention of 1111. You are so welcome, Brian. So someone, well, it's not a utility. You might just came in late, Lonnie. XRP ain't really going to move until the debt crisis destroy liquidity in the debt. I did live streams breaking down how XDC, I believe, will take on the US debt, HDC. But let me finish reading this. XRP ain't really going to move until the debt crisis destroys liquidity in the debt market. XRP backed by gold will provide on-demand liquidity. Let me ask you all this. Okay, XRP backed by gold. Let's get into this before I log off. XRP backed by gold. You are so welcome for everyone that's saying thank you. Right. When the dollar for 19, okay, let me just pull this up. When the dollar, and my internet is still slow, was backed by gold, how much was the dollar worth? Right, let me ask you that again. When the dollar was backed by gold, how much was the dollar worth? Because the dollar value, I can't pull it up, my internet's still slow. The dollar value was directly linked to a fixed amount. So even with that, with XRP, I said I still believe that XRP is going to be hopefully a high price stable coin, and it's still going to stabilize, and we're still going to see a fixed amount. So the gold standard was started from the 1800s. I believe I was 1970. I think it was like 1879 up to 1933, the Great Depression. Gold was, Lonnie, not $20. Gold was $20.87 an ounce. So each US dollars was equal to or equivalent to one like 20 or one of $20.67. So I get what you're saying with the $20. So the Gold Reserve Act of 1934, the very next year after they got it out the hands of, yeah, you're very close, United States citizens. Gold price then increased to $35 per ounce. But this devalued the dollar, effectively devaluing the dollar. So as gold prices increased in 1934, this devalued the dollar. Then Bretton Woods came in, and we see the numbers again, the double 44 in the Bretton Woods system in 1944 up to 1971. Then we got President Nixon, Tricky Dick Nixon, right? Bretton Woods, the US dollar was pegged to gold at $35 per ounce, and foreign governments could exchange dollars for gold. This is the big thing, you all. Foreign governments, other countries could exchange the US dollar for gold. That's all XRP on demand liquidity is going to allow to do, is exchange the US dollar for gold. This system ended in 1971. Again, when President Nixon closed that window. And this is why you see this graph of Ripple, then it says XRP. But Ripple comes first of that pegging to gold, because it's just representing that we are going to go back to the future when the US dollar was pegged to gold. That kept the dollar value up. That means it kept prices down. See, what we see is not really prices increasing. The value of the dollar is decreasing. So if the United States was still on the gold standard today, the value of the dollar would depend on the gold price, which is over $2,000. The value of it, but not the dollar amount. The value, people see value and price are very, very different. That's what people don't understand. So let's break down what would let's see. What would, let me ask this question, because you got me thinking. What would the calculation of how much a dollar would be worth or valued at today if it was still pegged to or backed by gold? So the price of gold is $3,067 is the price of gold today. Right? Which is great. By the way, gold is real money. Now, let's see, how can I explain this? So to determine the value, not the price of the US dollar is a dollar, but the value of it, if it was still backed by gold, we can compare okay. So under the Gold Act of 1900, US dollar was defined to value of $20.67. Today, 3,067 of gold. So if the dollar was still backed by gold, $1 would be equal to 1/3,067 troy ounces of gold. So that's approximately 0.0000326 troy ounces. $1 would equal to $20.67 of troy ounces of gold. Now, comparing this, the purchasing power, that's what we have to break down. The purchasing power of $1 in terms of gold has decreased again since 1971. President Nixon removed it. So if it was still back, to answer my question that I asked because of your question, the current market price, $3,067 troy ounce, if it was still backed by gold, each dollar would represent a much fraction or a smaller fraction of gold than it did under the gold standard, the dollars depreciating to gold over time. So meaning that we will see astronomically lower prices. We would not see inflation, right? As priced as it is now. I'm looking at the US debt clock. However, according to the US debt clock, silver is going to outperform gold. And what is pegged to silver on that chart? Well, XLM, right? So XLM. Now, the dollar to gold ratio last 5 years is 12,617. And the dollar to gold ratio now is $8,512, right? So give me a second. So we're talking about the value of a thing, not necessarily the price. And that's where a lot of people get confused. Hello, Dr. Alicia Robertson. London says they have to reevaluate the gold price to pay the debt. Well, first of all, I'm waiting on, Elon and Trump to do an audit, right, of Fort Knox to see if it's even there. To see if we even have gold and Fort Knox to reevaluate. And then the question ties into who is the United States paying the debt to? That's what people need to ask. Crypto Jake, you are so right. Smash that like button and subscribe. Let me share this screen with you all. I'm on here longer than expected, but I have not live streamed in some days. So this is showing the dollar to gold ratio, right? Let's teach right here. Okay. Dollar to gold ratio, 12,617. And then we have 8,512. So if the US dollar was still backed by gold, and an ounce of gold would be valued at, this is if an ounce of gold was valued at $8,512 per ounce, based on the current monetary, supply levels, that the dollar devaluation, when we're comparing it to the past, compared to the past. So again, in 1913, before the Federal Reserve was created, means people don't know that, which Trump is looking to get rid of. Before the gold standards was changed, the dollars was worth more in terms of gold. So again, we're talking about purchasing power, because listen, what I mean by that purchasing power, there was less dollars in circulation compared to gold reserve. So the dollar to gold ratio, 12,617. You all, my voice is getting weak, so I'm gonna have to stop talking and live stream. 5-year ratio here is the estimated values of gold based on the money supply over the last 5 years. And then we see 9,342 the last 10 years. This means that if gold was used and fully backed by the US dollar today, gold's price will have to be much higher to match the current money supply. That's all this means. If we were still using that gold standard and it was fully backed by the US dollar, we will not see $3,067 gold. We will see 9,342, 12,617. So the higher the dollar to gold ratio, the more the dollar has lost value relative to gold. Some people think this is a good thing, but that's really not. It's showing you value loss. This reflects the monetary inflation, meaning that more dollars are printed and each one is worth less in terms of gold. So, Queen, put this in layman terms for me. I sure will. This means that if the US was still on the gold standard, it will require much higher gold prices to match today's monetary supply. This is why I've been telling you all to go to millionmoves.com that you see strolling. This is gold and the price of, listen, okay, I'm glad you brought this up because this is a very teachable moment. Let me share this screen again. And I'm just going to have to clip this part out and make it an entire another video. So silver to dollar ratio, 1,560. Dollar to silver ratio, dollar to silver ratio, 5 years would have been 1,560. Same as gold. Estimate how much silver would be based on the money supply over the last 5 years. This is based on the last 10 years, right? And then the ratio now will be valued at, if it was still pegged, right? If it was still backed by silver and gold, that silver would be worth $1,099 today. Whereas in 1913, before the Federal Reserve was implemented, and you know what, 1913 makes me think. Today's the 19th. Brad Garland House made the announcement. Technically, on the Gregorian calendar, it's the third month, so we see the 3. But XRP and XLM are tied, and XPR are tied to the number 13 as well. So it seems like a flipping of 1913. Maybe that's why he announced it on the 19th today to represent 1913, because that's when the Federal Reserve came into existence. This is where we see the Federal Reserve. So maybe this is why 1913. So you all, if you can get silver, if it was still on the gold standard, right? And you can get silver at $32 a spot price and gold is at $3,000, which one will give you the highest return on your investment? Or in other words, which will give you more bang for your buck? And this is why understanding the silver to paper ratio and the gold to paper ratio, and silver is much higher. Someone says silver should be 10,000 an ounce. Well, according to that graph, US debt clock is showing at best 1,500 plus, I think 1,565 year is where silver is. So you got 3,000 for 1 ounce of gold, and the 5 year is 12,000. But then you got $32 spot price for silver, and the 5 year is 1,560. This is why that's over 1,000x return. Millimoves.com, even copper. Silver is the most undervalued asset in the world. So most people don't know how to read that US debt clock or that graph that's pegging XRP and XLM and XDC to copper and XLM to silver and et cetera and et cetera. Most don't know how to read that. And I just broke it down. So if you don't understand, watch this more than one time. I have to preserve my voice. I'm having tonsillitis problems, right? So I don't want to, say buy crypto suckers too loud. But Crypto Jacob, I already said it. But that's breaking it down, you all. That's why I think we see the 1913 combination, because it represents the feds. Thank you, Uncle Bobo, for putting the 111 in. You all, I love you all. I'm logging off. I have to rest my vocals. You all have a great rest of your night. Like, share this video, subscribe to the channel. And again, bye, crypto suckers. Peace. Queen out.